Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the final webinar of Study in Europe, the fair organized by the EU delegation to Singapore to showcase higher education opportunities in Europe. I hope you spent, like us, the days gazing through all the European universities and possibly also taking advantage of all the one-to-one counseling that was offered throughout the day. I am Isabella Pirolo. I'm going to be the moderator of this panel on Erasmus+, the European Union flagship initiative on higher education, but also much more. You will find out all this and much more thanks to our three fantastic speakers. But before starting to introduce them to you, let me just remind a couple of housekeeping points. First of all, please remember to be on mute. I know you probably have heard this all the time, but it's very important. We have a fantastic team behind the scenes who's going to help us with this. But if you can also contribute to that, it would be great. Second, remember that the panelists are here only for you. This is your opportunity to ask a question and to find out everything about Erasmus+. So don't be shy, ask all your questions. You have a chat box on the side, so start whenever you want. We will have a first part with a dialogue with the speakers, and the second part is all going to be question and answers with you. And finally, I would like to remind that this first fully digital edition of Study in Europe has been possible only thanks to the support extended to the project by the EU's foreign policy instrument. So a very big thank you from all of us. And now let me introduce you our fantastic panelists. We start with Royce Hu. Royce is an Erasmus alumni and is going to share with us later on all his experience about his Erasmus in beautiful Estonia. Hi, Royce. Directly from Brussels, we have a fantastic man who is behind Erasmus+, Adrian Ville. Adrian is going to help you understand much better how the flagship initiative works. And we are very thankful that he's joining during the morning in Brussels. But we don't feel too guilty because I think it's 11 o'clock in the morning. So not too much of an early start for a Saturday.
It's my pleasure, and it's not too early, no.
Thank you, Adrian. And last, but obviously not least, a very big thank you to our European ambassador to Singapore, Barbara Plinkert. And we are very happy that she's here with us for this closing act of the fair. And good afternoon, Ambassador Plinkert. So this is your third edition of...
Good afternoon.
Ambassador Plinkert, this is your third participation in the Study in Europe event since your arrival to Singapore. Any first message you would like to share with the participants in the fair and in the webinar?
Yes, thanks very much, Isabella. And indeed, it's the first digital version of the webinar of the Study in Europe fair, and we've seen an enormous amount of activity on the various platforms throughout the day. So I'm really excited to be here now towards the end of our day of Study in Europe. We've seen 20 countries and nearly 150 universities presenting their diverse study options available across Europe in this first digital edition of the European Union's Higher Education Fair Study in Europe, coming from Singapore. I'd like to really take this opportunity before we go into this fantastic panel that awaits us. I'd really like to start by expressing my thanks to a number of partners that have helped make this event happen and make it a success. So first of all, obviously, all the participating countries. Without them, there would not be a Study in Europe fair. So thanks to all the participating countries, my fellow ambassadors, the staff in the embassies that have worked so hard, the education experts from across Europe, from all the universities that have joined, and who all have been part of the conversations, the many conversations that have taken place in the course of today. And last but not least, obviously to my colleagues at the EU delegation to Singapore, who really have worked tirelessly in the past months to make this this first digital edition of the Study in Europe Fair really a first in our history of Study in Europe fairs, and also across the world. It is one of the first to make this a reality and make it a success. So thanks to all these partners, all the various people that have helped to arrive where we are now. This fair really is about connectivity. It brings Singaporeans and Europeans together. And this special webinar, this last webinar that we are in right now on Erasmus Plus, which is the EU's flagship higher education program, will show to all participants the many linkages and education opportunities that there are in Europe and between Singapore and Europe. So I'm really looking forward to discussing with you, hearing your questions, and really linking up with you on the study opportunities that we have in Europe. With this, I'm really looking forward to the panel, and thanks again. Over to you again, Isabella.
Thanks a lot, Ambassador. Just maybe another question before moving on to our speaker. How has the fair evolved this year amidst the COVID-19 situation? Could you give us some insight about it?
Yes, of course, you know, the fair has always been about the ties, the essence of the ties between the EU and Singapore. It's about people-to-people ties. It's about bringing people together. And this is so much about our relationship between the EU and Singapore. This has remained obviously the same. But we are in an exceptional period. We all have we've gone through this period, and we are still going through this period of COVID-19 that has required us to look differently at things, you know, where we are no longer naturally able to meet up together in a physical format. So really the question has been, how do we still make it happen even in this exceptional period? And the decision was really to continue doing it, to maintain it, even though we are not able to meet physically, and to go online, to make this the first digital edition of the Study in Europe Fair. So this is how it has evolved. We are no longer in a physical format, but online, and the contents of whatever has you have seen on the website today will stay online for the next 11 months. So it's not only a one-off. Of course, a lot has happened today. There have been webinars, there have been one-on-one exchanges and so on, but all the contents that has been collected over the last few months to make today possible, this will stay online. So people can really continue to look at what Europe has to offer in terms of the study opportunities. And also, I think what I need to say is also that the digital format makes it possible for other students from other countries around the ASEAN region, for example, to join in and also learn about study options in Europe. It has been able to get a wider participation from not only Singapore but beyond Singapore as well. So yes, it has evolved, and I'm really excited that we're here today, and we really made it happen.
And Ambassador Plinkert, if I may, a last point, what do you think makes a study in Europe appealing, given that we have so many education fairs in Singapore?
Personally, I think this is an exceptional fair because it's not only about one country, it is really about Europe. It shows the diversity, it shows the culture, it's about culture, diversity, connectivity within a region and between regions, between countries. So it's really this what makes it exceptional, what makes it different. It really represents what we call a Team Europe effort, where we come together with the many European Union countries and do something together. We all have our differences. We have different cultures. We are diverse in who we are, but nevertheless, we come together. We offer these opportunities across Europe, and this is a perfect opportunity to really learn about, you know, what are the differences, where where does everyone want to study, and what is it that everyone wants to look for. So that's what makes it different, and what makes it exceptional. So I'm really proud that we have been able, together with the 20 countries that are participating, to make this happen.
Many thanks, Ambassador. And I will now move on to our second panelist, Adrian, who I mentioned before is joining us from Brussels. And I gave a very brief introduction before, so I would just like to add that Adrian works for the department of the European Commission that is in charge of education, youth, culture, and sport, and more in particular in the international team. So we are very, very glad that it's here with us today, as I said before. And Adrian, I would like to ask you why you think our listeners should choose Europe as destination for their higher education, and how can the Erasmus Programme support their choices?
Yes, thanks, Isabella, and thanks, Ambassador, for that introduction. As the Ambassador said, here at the EU, we're working very much in partnership with all the countries throughout Europe, because we want students to consider Europe as a study destination in itself. It has a long tradition. It has a long tradition historically. I think the first university in Europe dates from 1088, University of Bologna, but European universities, as part of that tradition, have always innovated. They have always played a key role in the way that knowledge evolves, the way that knowledge develops. From your point of view, from the other side of the world, it may be that you're not familiar enough with the sheer range of opportunities that Europe has to offer. I'm in different countries. There are larger countries, smaller countries, but we all share this long tradition. There are centers of excellence in every European country, and what you benefit if you decide to choose Europe as your study destination, if you're considering leaving your own country, what you get from Europe is you get a bit of a feel for this Team Europe approach. The countries of Europe work together. We have worked very hard over the last 30 years not to impose one European system, but we have brought together these different outlooks, these different areas of expertise, these different traditions from different countries, so that they can work together easily. We call this, in jargon, we call this the Bologna process, but it's been a long, not necessarily easy process, but all the European countries are compatible. So you benefit from this exchange of ideas that has been going on inside Europe. Whether you come to a large, well-known country for education, Germany, the Netherlands, France, or whether you come to perhaps a smaller country that nevertheless has an excellent record, and that's what you've been able to sample a little bit in today's event. If I can talk, yeah. But perhaps I can also talk about the Erasmus Plus program, because first and foremost, we would encourage you to choose Europe as your study destination. But I'd like also to talk about some of the opportunities that the EU provides to make this a reality for you. Again, going back 30 years or so, it was decided as part of this coming together that Europe's universities would have what we call a mobility system. We would enable the universities to exchange students, to exchange staff, to learn not only academically, but also to learn about another country. So it's become quite commonplace for a European student to spend part of their degree in another country. I think Isabella herself has done that. So it's become a bit of a tradition in Europe. More recently, we started to extend those opportunities to students from outside Europe. So it's now possible for students from Singapore, from other ASEAN countries in your region, to come to Europe under an EU-funded scholarship to benefit from a short-term program of studies or a master degree program. Shall I talk a little bit about those opportunities?
I think, Adrian, will be very helpful for our participants if you could develop a little bit how they look like and what is on offer. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'll talk about the mechanics, if you like, how it works, what is available. But later on, I'm going to hand over to a much better qualified person to talk about what it means in practice, because you'll hear from Royce later on, who is a beneficiary who's experienced one of these mobility periods in Europe, because I'd like to stress the academic value of it, but also the intercultural value. So let's see if I can just get my presentation up. So when you come to study under the Erasmus Plus program, you're coming from an academic experience, but you're also coming for an intercultural experience. I think this is very important. It's not necessarily easy. It's a bit of a challenge, but when you come to Europe, you will learn new academic skills, and you will also learn about how other cultures work. You'll probably improve other language skills. And what's, I think, very important is that this is recognized by employers as a very important skill for the future, your future career. The sorts of openness to other points of view, the acceptance that there are different approaches to learning, different approaches to life in different countries, are real skills that are valued at the place of work, so in your future careers. And we offer two sorts of mobility systems, if you like, mobility opportunities to enable you to do this. The first is a sort of classic exchange scheme that we have between universities. So a university in Singapore can have an agreement with a university in France or in Sweden or in Romania to exchange students and staff. We call this international credit mobility, because this is a form of mobility that is part of your degree from your home university. So you're studying in Singapore, you go to, let's say, Italy for 4, 5, 6 months, and you study part of your course in Italy. You gain credits for that course, and you come back to Singapore. Those credits are form part of your final degree back home. So that's why we call it credit mobility. There can be study periods of between 3 and 12 months for students, or staff opportunities for between 2 weeks and 2 months. And you get a living cost covered by the scholarship, and it also covers your travel to Europe. Now, I'm not going to talk much about this, but here's how it works in practice. Royce will shortly tell you about his experience when he went from Singapore to a university in Estonia as part of his bachelor's studies, and he studied psychology, but he'll talk to you more about that. But that's the sort of model that we have. It's only possible if your university has an agreement with a European university. So have a talk to your international relations office to find out if they have these agreements. And then they will tell you which study programs are open for these scholarships, and which universities it's possible to go to. In general, we have about 30 to 40 scholarships for Singaporean students every year to go to Europe, and there are agreements. There are about 40 of these agreements between Singapore and Europe, with about 30 different universities in 14 different European countries. Something's going wrong with my presentation there, but those are the statistics. Also, for people attending the webinar from outside Singapore, these also exist with Malaysia, with Vietnam, with Thailand, Indonesia, etc. So it covers the whole region. The other type of mobility is different. It's mobility for a master degree program. Now, these programs are special. They're generally 2 years program, 2-year programs, and they're special because they are integrated. They are offered by a partnership of universities. A student will come to attend the program, and they will do a mini Erasmus within that program. So you'll study in 2 or 3 or 4 different universities. And each university brings to the program its own national approach to teaching and its own specific expertise. So different modules of the program are offered by these different universities. What's also interesting and very innovative about these programs is that they bring together different academic disciplines often. So they are really training graduates. They are giving graduates a set of skills that they will need for a certain type of work, to become a practitioner, to become an administrator, to become a decision maker in a particular area. So you might get skills from life sciences, from IT, from intercultural studies, all parceled together as a set of skills to become, for example, an expert in marine environment or in humanitarian assistance. So they're integrated because they bring together different countries and because they bring together different disciplines. We have about 150 of these master's courses now, and they offer full scholarships. So the scholarship covers the cost of taking part, the travel to and around Europe and back, as well as your living costs. So enough to cover the costs of staying in the country during your studies. We've got lots of different subjects. We don't set any specific areas. So they cover the entire range. You can see just that's a list that should be moving, but it's not. But all sorts of areas: animal genetics, nuclear fusion. You've got quantitative economics, microelectronics. We find about a third are humanities, a third are hard sciences, and a third are life sciences. Another example of a Singaporean student, Ziyu, is now studying MARE, it's called, European Master of Science in Marine Environment. She started last September in Bordeaux, in France, and now she's studying in her second year, and that takes place in Bilbao and in Liège in Belgium. So that shows you a little bit the study track that she is following, and it shows you that it brings together a range of different life science, hard science, and social science studies to to play a particular role in marine environment in the future. These courses, it's a bit different. It doesn't depend on your university. These courses are open to anybody. So the best thing to do is to look at the list of master's courses. There's a link there. You can Google it by looking for Erasmus Mundus Joint Master Degrees. You'll find that catalogue. We're about to update this catalogue because each year we select new programs, and we've got, I think, 45 or 46 new programs which will be open to applicants from about October onwards. So slightly different timetables and deadlines, but most courses will open for applications in October. The application period will go on until the end of the year or January. And this is for programs that start this time next year. So it's quite a long process, but we do it well in advance so that you have plenty of time to prepare and plenty of time, for example, to do the administrative things you'll have to do. By looking at that catalogue, you will get access to the program website. And the program website will tell you everything about the program, the study tracks, the different options for where to study. And it'll also explain very clearly how you have to apply. Now, these courses are open to students from all over the world. The best applications will receive the scholarships, but many students also take part as fee-paying students, or they take part with scholarships from other sources. So that's the idea, that we have a wide body of students taking part. The application is also done online. So for that, you'll need to have the right background, obviously. You'll need to be eligible. Your bachelor's will have to be in the right sort of area. And you'll have to show a bit, not only your academic record and why you fit the bill from an eligibility point of view, but also you'll have to show why you're the right person to do this program. So a letter of motivation is very important. Talk about why you think you are the right person to do this program. What is your experience, not just academic, but outside academia? What are your dreams? What are your ambitions? And also, if you have worked in the meantime, that's also it's also open to students or applicants with some work experience under their belt. So it's not only open to people coming direct from their bachelor's. You can also talk about professional experience, and that counts. Most of the courses programs are in English. There are some that will require some other local languages, but that will be very clear in the course website. So Erasmus Mundus, international credit mobility, but there are many other opportunities throughout Europe, and you'll have heard a lot about these today during the fair. We try to put all these together as well on this website, the Study in Europe portal, on our Europa website, the EU's website, that provides you with a lot of information about studying abroad in general, but it can lead you to more information from the national agencies in the different European countries about the opportunities available, how to apply, the scholarship opportunities. So have a look in the Study in Europe portal for more general information about studying in Europe, if you haven't found it at the fair today. I can't really talk about coming to Europe without mentioning what the ambassador mentioned. We're still living under the shadow of the COVID-19 pandemic. And there has been a lot of activity, a lot of thought gone into how to continue with higher education in Europe. It's not just in Europe, in the whole world, in fact. Now, here in Europe, the main focus, the main priority has been health and safety. So Europe's universities are keen to continue, but they want to continue to deliver quality higher education in safe conditions. So that's the main priority. This means, though, that things, we can't avoid it, things will be different this academic year. So we have new ways of delivering education, some of it online. Some of it means that the timing will be slightly different from a normal year. It won't be the same as last year. But nevertheless, everyone is working hard to try and make sure that students do not miss out on this international experience. So universities have been putting together new packages of the way they're going to teach, when they're going to teach, for their own students, I mean for students, European students, but also for international students. What you can also do, if you want to get a bit of a taster for what European higher education online can mean, there are some education resources that have been put together on the Europa website as well. So don't be put off. Don't remember that your dream can still take place. We will return to something of a normal situation that we had before the pandemic. And in the meantime, Europe's universities are doing as much as they can to ensure that you can get as much of the international experience as is possible in safe conditions. Then briefly, I've been going on for quite a long time, but just one thing, these opportunities I've been talking about are going to continue. We're going to launch a new program. You'll see the current program lasts till the end of this year, but in 2021 we have a new program ready to launch, which will continue these opportunities. So sorry for going on for so long, but I think there's so much available that I just wanted to give you a picture of what's on offer.
Adrian, nothing to be sorry about. On the contrary, thanks a lot. I'm sure there will be a lot of questions following your presentation, but was already very comprehensive. And also thank you for having addressed straight ahead the topic of COVID-19. I'm sure a lot of people among our audience today were exactly wondering how is the situation now in Europe. So also thank you for being so transparent about it. And as you mentioned, I am an Erasmus alumni myself. I guess I was not asked to share my experience because today I made a calculation and I did it 12 years ago. So probably they think I don't remember my Erasmus experience anymore. I actually don't agree with this, but I think we have here a much better Erasmus alumni to represent and to share with us his own experiences. So before giving you the floor, Royce, let me just remind the audience that now it's time to start asking your question. I saw in the chat already there are some questions coming up, so please continue. We're happy to then address after Royce talk to us about his own experience. So Royce, first question, how did you decide to enroll in the Erasmus program and why Estonia?
So I guess I wanted to experience living in a different country, having been in Singapore for close to 25 years of my life. I think stepping out of my comfort zone and really putting myself in an unfamiliar and uncomfortable situation was probably the key drivers to why I wanted to go on the Erasmus program. Now, on why Estonia, I think in Singapore it's really a hustle and bustle city lifestyle. I really wanted to go to a different country where I can really slow down the pace of life, and as well as a country where the cost of living is perhaps not too high. The last reason, and perhaps the most important reason that I feel, is that Estonia has always been dubbed as the Silicon Valley of Europe. And I mean, TransferWise and Skype are some of the businesses that came out of Estonia. I really wanted to go understand why are these businesses coming out of Estonia and what's the startup scene like in Estonia. So I guess these are the reasons why Estonia.
Thanks a lot. And how was it once you got there? Well, first obvious question would be, what about the language? So you arrived to Estonia, and did you have any issue? I mean, the program was in English. And then also, was it, did you have structure in place who helped you also getting used to the university and so on?
So I think I had a concern before going to Estonia, but I did my research online saying that the young people in Estonia actually speak pretty fluent English. So when I was there, that really affirmed my doubt that I wouldn't have a language barrier. But of course, I always believe that if you're in a foreign country, you should pick up the language. And I pick up some basic Estonian language to get on a day-to-day basis. Now, in terms of support for students, I think that this is very in-depth support provided by TELTEC and as well as the Erasmus Student Network, or ESN for short. So let me touch on ESN first. ESN do conduct many sessions of where they provide networking sessions or to help new incoming Erasmus students settle in. One example was I was actually brought to the old town of Tallinn by the ESN Tallinn group, where we spend the night ice skating as well as going for networking drinks and walking around town a little bit. So this really helped me settle in the first 2 weeks of my school life in Estonia. I also attended a couple of other events like going on trips to Finland or Moscow, which really made me make more friends. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why people go on Erasmus programs, to really network and build their international friendships. TELTEC also was very supportive because they provided a buddy system where I was provided opportunity to actually tour the school before my curriculum started. So on the second day I landed in Tallinn, there was a buddy that came to my hostel and brought me around school. So that really helped me, assimilate quite much faster to the life in Estonia, rather than me being all left alone and worrying how am I going to find my next seminar classroom or even where's the cafeteria, right? So I think I feel these are really quite good support provided by TELTEC.
Thanks a lot, Royce. And now a question on when you came back. So was this a sort of connecting the dots experience? So looking back at it, what do you think added to your curriculum now that you're back in Singapore?
I think there are two fundamental benefits of going to an Erasmus Plus program. I will touch on the first one. I think the first one is really developing that worldview of yours, because when you go on an Erasmus program, you meet different people of different background, and this really open your view. You learn about more perspectives, more cultures, and you build friendship as well. But I think that's particularly important. I work in human resource now. I've been working in a human resource company for the past 2.5 years. One of the most important skills that employees look for is really the ability to work with a diverse group of people. Because nowadays, businesses are not only operating in a single country, they operate across the region and global. You will need to work with people from different cultures and backgrounds. And the more comfortable you are, and the more you value people from different experiences and different perspectives, then I would say the more successful you are. Now, the second reason or the second benefit, I think, is really immersing yourself in a different culture really teach you skills like independence as well as adaptability. Because studying abroad can be challenging, right? Navigating the visa, finding a house, or even just finding a way around the new country that you're in. But these challenges can really help you to become a more mature person. And you will learn that, there'll be situations where you need to use sign languages to actually walk around town sometimes, or maybe even going to the doctor. When I was in Estonia, I actually fell sick and I needed to go to the doctor and need to figure out that on a very last minute basis. So I guess this actually helps you build your skills to actually adapt to new situations. And that will actually come in the workplace, in life. And I feel that the Erasmus program really benefited me in these two areas. Isabella, are you there? she might have loved the meeting.
Yes, I think we may have lost Isabel, but yes, thanks, Roy.
This is Dixita here. I think we just lost Isabella for a bit. We do have a question that has come in. I think, Adrian, you would be best to take that on. It's from Fikri. I'm looking for marketing and business programs. Is there any catalog about marketing and business? Before that, I can check in the catalog. If you can help explain that to me. And Adrian, you've responded to that, but I don't know if you wanted to add anything else. And Isabella is back on.
Okay, just very briefly, yes, for the benefit of everyone. We don't have courses in every academic discipline in the Erasmus Mundus catalogue. I mean, by all means, have a look and find those that match your background, your interests. But there is obviously a much wider range of courses out there in the rest of Europe. One thing you could look at is, and have a look at the chat, because you'll find the link there, is the U multi-rank platform, because that lists European, actually non-European universities as well. It's a worldwide system, but it's a sort of university selection platform. You can look at the strengths of the universities as assessed by the academics themselves, the administrators, but also the students. So that could give you a good idea of where Europe's top universities for these subjects are.
Thanks a lot, Adrian. And I have another question for you from Destriani from Jakarta. So she said that there will be some new, you mentioned, Adrian, that there will be some new features of Erasmus Plus in 2021 onward. Could you please give us some more details about that?
Actually, our main focus is on continuity. So we think that these models work very well, and we want to continue doing them. But you're right, where possible, we're trying to improve the situation. For Erasmus Mundus, in particular, we are trying to make the partnerships more attractive for universities from outside Europe. So at the moment, the partnerships tend to be pretty much 100% European. We don't have many universities from outside Europe who are taking part in these programs. We want to make it a little bit more international, so that the opportunities for students will remain the same, but they will get an even more global outlook in the programs, because within the partnerships you will find more universities from, for example, the States, from Brazil, from South Africa, from Japan. You know, different countries will be involved in the new programs as they are selected. But for the rest, to be honest, the changes will be to make them a bit more efficient, sort of behind the scenes, the mechanics. They will be very similar to the way they are now.
Thanks a lot, Adrian. And as was to be expected, we have a lot of questions coming up. I think all for you, mainly. So we have a question from Sven, who's saying that he recalls that he saw that there were some universities in Serbia and Moldova who were also part of Erasmus Plus, and he was asking if there is a catalogue of universities located outside of the European Union.
We don't have a catalogue of all those universities, no, but just a clarification about that. Yes, there are some universities, some countries which are part of Erasmus Plus, which are not in the European Union. So at the moment we have some countries: Norway, Iceland, Serbia, Turkey, and Montenegro. We have these countries which have chosen to take part in Erasmus Plus on the same footing as a European country. Now, if you're in Singapore, it means that it's possible that the exchange agreements can be with those countries too. So not only EU member states, but also Turkey, Norway, etc. Moldova, on the other hand, is a partner country in Erasmus+. So that is on the same footing as Singapore, Malaysia, Brazil, China, whatever. So that means we don't do mobility from between two different partner countries. So you could go to Serbia, because that's a European country for the purposes of Erasmus+, but you couldn't go to Moldova. So that's really why we don't have a catalogue of all the universities, because I think that will give the wrong picture.
Thanks a lot. The following question could be both for Roy, so for you, Adrian. I mean, we receive a question from Ramat who's asking, no, actually before that, there is a question from Vina who's asking if there is a local agent in Singapore that could help her with admission to a Spanish university. I think maybe Royce, you could give also some information. How difficult was it for you also to enroll in the program?
So I think my first advice is that if you're studying in Singapore, get in touch with your international relations office, because I think that's, for myself, when I started the process, I really just applied via the National University of Singapore's International Relations Office, which I was studying at the moment in time. And they have a catalogue or list of universities that they have partnership with, as well as the programs that you can apply for. So I guess if you're a student currently studying in Singapore, that would be the first step that you should take, reaching out to your local university.
Thanks a lot, Royce. Adrian, two questions for you. I will read them both, and then so you can answer them together. So the first one is a bit specific. It's from Ramat, and is mentioning that he has found the program about smart cities and community, but he cannot find the details on the website. So he's wondering if the program is open in 2020 or 2021. And then another question still for you could be, I think you already mentioned the deadline, but when should students start applying to universities in Europe?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably you can answer both of these questions together. Yes, you're right, Ramat, that the list as it stands, the catalogue, still refers to the opportunities that were open last year. This is because we're just at the point in the annual cycle where we update that list. So every year in the summer, we select new Erasmus Mundus programs which will be added to that list. What we haven't quite yet done, and usually that's at the beginning of October, that new list will appear, which will add those 46, I think it is, 46 new programs that we've selected this year. So that's the list. The new list that will appear shortly is the one that you have to look at. So I can't say off the top of my head whether smart cities will still be on that list. During the rest of this webinar, I will try and find that, because in fact we fund these programs for 4 years. So each year we add new programs, but some programs which have reached the end of their 4 years may disappear from the list. But I'll try and find out for you what the situation with smart cities is. Then also that sort of timetable is also important, because we update it at the beginning of October, because that's the time when these programs will open up for applications. So for an Erasmus Mundus program, you can start looking at the courses, looking at the application requirements during October, and then there's a period of about 2 or 3 months when these remain open for applications. And then for credit mobility, this is really something inside your university. So the important message is there to go and talk to your international relations office, because there's a slightly different timetable. Some students will go in October, some will go in January, some will go in April. So you would need to see what the different options are at your university.
Okay, thanks a lot. Another question, I'm afraid, still for you, Adrian. So, are there any PhD scholarship under Erasmus program? A question from Destriani.
Yes, a good question. You may have read about this. This existed in the past, in fact. We had very similar programs, Erasmus Mundus programs, at doctoral level, which also had fellowships. What we do now is that we offer funding from our research program, which has the name Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions. So these are individual grants to researchers. Now these are for different levels. These can be doctoral level researchers or postdoc or academic staff, but they're designed to be a first step on the research ladder for young researchers. I'm going to recommend that you have a look at a site called Euraccess. I'll just put that in the chat, because that they have an office in Singapore that covers the Southeast Asia region, and they can point you in the right direction for doctoral opportunities, fellowships, and also job opportunities for researchers.
Thanks a lot, Adrian. And in fact, we also work a lot with Euraccess colleagues who are based here in Singapore and in the region. And I will now take the last question coming from the chat, because we're getting close to the end of our panel. But just to remind you, to all the participants, that the team of the Study in Europe is very happy to try to address all the questions that you're keeping feeding in. So if we're not taking the question now, don't despair, there will be an answer. So I'm taking as the last question, the question from Elita. Elita is also from Jakarta, and I think it's again for you, Adrian. So the question is that she saw there were some Erasmus Mundus programs that were allowing students to study remotely from their own country of origin because of COVID-19. So she's asking if this is still, if this still means that there is a possibility to get the incentive from Erasmus if they cannot travel to European universities yet.
Yes, thanks, Elita. Yes, this is an example of what I was mentioning before, is that this year will be different. It already is different, in fact. And universities are doing their utmost to try and maintain these opportunities. Now, a lot of Erasmus Mundus programs have decided that the best thing to do is to delay the program entirely. It's a bit of a drastic measure, but nobody will lose out. There are Erasmus Mundus students who will start later this academic year, maybe in January. There are some students, some programs who have decided simply to delay this edition of the program until next September. Now, it means none of these students will lose out. They keep their scholarship, but it will be slightly later. It depends. Each university has adopted an approach that matches the situation in their country and the strategy that that university or that group of universities has adopted to deal with the pandemic. So it's not an entirely concrete answer that I can give, but what the principle is that we have allowed these programs to adopt a large degree of flexibility so that they can continue delivering the program, some with distance learning, some with a later start, but the idea is that nobody misses out on this opportunity. It may be a little bit later, but the scholarship will still be there and the opportunity will still be there.
Thanks a lot, Adrian. I think that was very reassuring. And I would also like to remind to all the participants in the webinar that there are also more information in the studyineurope.com.sg website, so you can also find additional information there. And I'm afraid this was the time at our disposal for the question and answer session. And before closing this panel, I would like to once again ask to our Ambassador Plinkert, I'll ask the closing remark. So it has been a very, very day full of energy, full of different information. The participants had the opportunity to see a lot about the different universities. And I wonder if Ambassador Plinkert could share with us some information or some details about the response on the event. How many people were able to Zoom in? And also if she has any final observation that she would like to pass to the audience of Study in Europe.
Thank you very much, Isabella, and it was great to follow this conversation. Although most of the questions were to Adrian and Royce, and I'm very glad to have had such expert fellow panelists here who were able so expertly to answer these questions. Before answering your question, Isabella, I would just like to come back to one point that was made by Royce. It's about the language barrier, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, Royce, that this is something that probably many students think about before they opt for studying in Europe, any country, small or big. There are so many languages, and this might be something that people think about. Is it really okay to go studying there? Will I find my way? How, and many people probably also don't know that there's a lot of offers of study courses that are in English. So I really appreciate that you shared your experience on that, and that everything went well, and that it was possible to go to Estonia with a foreign language in place, but nevertheless be able to study in English, and actually this language barrier not being such a huge issue. So I think this is something that's important, because there are all these study opportunities out there in Europe, and English is obviously one of them. Core languages of studying. So this is no longer a big issue for making your decision to study in a European country. So I think that is something I wanted to say in advance. And of course also then coming to the present situation, it's clear that there will be a lot of questions on how studying in Europe will be possible in this exceptional period. We are really in very particularly challenging times that we are all going through, and we all try to come back on our feet and continue with what we have been doing. So of course studying and offering study courses to students is a huge priority. So everyone is working very hard to make this happen, and this also applies to obviously the Erasmus Plus program. So let's hope that this obstacle, these challenges will be overcome, and also coming here together, doing the Study in Europe Fair, having this webinar also shows that we are committed, and we continue to be committed to higher education and to really fostering our cooperation on higher education between the EU and Singapore, and between the EU and ASEAN. So now coming to your question about participation and so on, over the past 4 years we have had a participation of between 900 and 2,000 visitors in the physical fairs that we have conducted here in Singapore. This already has reflected a growing interest in the various education opportunities that there are in Europe. We have really seen a gradual increase of numbers of participants that were showing up at the fairs every year. And it's really showing that Europe is becoming more and more an attractive destination for students. And this has been extremely good to see over the last few years. So since we have launched the website now of Study in Europe on the 10th of September, a couple of weeks ago, we've had over 13,000 13,000 visitors, not just from Singapore, but also from Southeast Asia. So a huge increase of people who were able to really access this information. And today we've had over 3,000 visitors on the fair's website, finding information and really attending the 30 webinars and engaging in the live conversations with representatives from 20 countries. So this is already a record. It's much more than we had in the past years. So we do see the success of this online fair. And I'm sure there will be even more because, as I said earlier, the contents on the website will remain there for the next 11 months. So there still continues to be an opportunity for people to access it. So again, once again, I'd just like to extend my really sincere thanks to all the participating countries, the fellow ambassadors, and all the colleagues who have made this event possible. Also to specifically colleagues of the Foreign Policy Instrument of the European Union that has funded this fair in Bangkok, Michel Mouchiou. It has been a fantastic collaboration with everyone to make this event happen. Lastly, today, I would like also to mention that today the EU has extended its support for another 2 years until 2022 for the European Union support to higher education in ASEAN, which is called the SHARE program. Some participants may be familiar with it. It's called the SHARE program. This is facilitating student mobility through scholarships and is another key step that affirms our commitment to the region and also to higher education and to fostering higher education and mobility within the region. So this is will be given an additional funding of 15 million euro for more students in the region that can be mobile and go from their home country to another ASEAN country to study there. So this is just news fresh from the press that came out today, just on the day of our Study in Europe fair, and I really wanted to share that with you. So once again, the success of today's event really shows our strength as Europe and what we can accomplish when we come together as Team Europe. And it has been a great day. And thanks once again to everyone. And thanks to my co-panelists and to the great moderator. Thank you.
Many thanks, Ambassador. And indeed, thanks to you and to Adrian and to Royce to be with us on this Saturday afternoon or morning for Adrian to share your experience, your views, and also your knowledge about Erasmus+. Thanks to all the participants who have been asking a lot of questions, showing once again the interest in this fantastic program. And I don't want to sound too melancholic, but it is a fantastic program and it is a one in a lifetime experience. So I hope you're enthusiastic as much as we are about Erasmus, and hope to see you next year. Thanks a lot again to all of you. Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.